Hey guys, how's it going? It's Al, week 14, Monday Night Football, and I've got a single game showdown video for you. The game between the Baltimore Ravens and the Cleveland Browns. Not the most exciting game. There are some good pieces. Both teams really kind of don't really mesh against one another in a fantasy way, right? Like you guys like it, or I like it, and like to tell you guys about it when the puzzle pieces kind of fit together. So when you have a team that like can't stop wide receivers, and you have a team with really good passing and really good wide receivers, those puzzle pieces fit together. What we have here is two really stingy teams against the run and two teams that want to run the football. So it's going to be really interesting to see which one can impose their will onto the other. It's very straightforward this week. There are no injuries here. And the correlations are going to be a little bit funky because of the two teams that we have in play. So unless something gets out of hand, and it's not expected to get out of hand on this game, with the total at 46.5 and the Ravens favored on the road by 3 points. This is going to be a game of bully ball. This is going to be a game of which team can just execute better than the other one. That may not be the most exciting for fantasy. And the touchdowns are going to be the things that really determine who's going to win this week. It's not going to be a super high volume game in the passing game. There is one soft spot that I think that we can attack. So we're going to try and get to that, and we're going to take a look at things in the Fantasy Labs optimizer and the tools that they have there, as well as the rules that I use that I like to kind of plug things in and see how we can build lineups the best over there if you're using mass multi-entry, which is something that I do think you guys who are low budget players, those of you with smaller bankrolls, but also want to understand how you can learn to mass multi-enter, that's where these tools come into play. There are 5 cent, 10 cent, 25 cent, 50 cent games where you can have an opportunity to win like $5, $10, $15,000 on a weekend of NFL on a main slate, or in a single game showdown. Obviously showdown, you're more likely to split that pot than you would on a main slate, but it's a great way to find out if you're the next MME player for not a lot of money that you're gonna have to outlay, but also have a really good bank opportunity if you do happen to hit the nuts of that week. Thank you guys for being here. Drop a like on the video, subscribe to the channel, ring the notifications bell. If you are so inclined and want to join the Discord, we have a link down below in the description. Just click show more. Jump into the Discord. There are free channels there. You don't have to sub to anything, and you can have people that you can surround yourself to talk to about daily fantasy, especially with NBA season coming in like a week. You're going to want to have people that you can bounce things off of. If you do wanted to join the channel and become a channel member, you can link your Discord to YouTube once you become a channel member, and then you get access to the VIP rooms where basically all of the Twitch subs and the YouTube subs mingle throughout the day, every single day, on NFL, NBA, and every other sport, including sports betting and whatever else. So thank you guys for being here. Let's get to the video. As always, I do like to limit my quarterbacks to like 15% total, right? We know that running backs and wide receivers are the most likely outcomes to come in as the captain winner of a showdown slate. However, I will make exceptions for unicorn type quarterbacks, because when it comes to your captain spot, you want to make sure that these are players that you're putting in there that can end the day as one of the top 1 or 2 scorers on the slate, as that's really what you're going to need to plug into your captain spot on DraftKings to get that extra 1.5x on their points scored. And a lot of people kind of look at it and say, well, there's this great value, and that value play is like 200 or 400, and if I put him in there, then I might be able to fit everything else in. But that value play is only going to get you, even on a good day, right? Like last week with Buffalo, when McKenzie was the value play that we identified that was going to play some extra snaps, run some extra routes, scored like 11 DraftKings points that night. Well, he would have had like 16, and you would not have won because you needed Beasley or you needed Allen even to have a chance in your MVP slot to even have a shot at taking down that turn, because they had 30 plus DraftKings points. That's 45 out of the captain spot, and likely going to have the other one with it if you wanted to win. So it's not likely that you're going to get close to as many points by putting the super low dollar guy in there. So I kind of limit my captain pool much more strictly than I'll limit my flex pool when it comes to showdown. So when it comes to the quarterback at captain, when I do have a Lamar Jackson, a unicorn like this who can get us, 10, 15 carries on the ground, which is what they've gone back to doing with him this year, much like last. He is having a lot different touchdown success this year than last, because touchdowns are fluky, and that's why I always talk about using the yardage column as a floor and the touchdown column for rushing as a ceiling. because we can bank on these rush attempts. We can bank on these yards, but you can't bank on the touchdowns. That's just a ceiling possibility. What we could have here is Lamar Jackson connecting with his tight end, which is clearly his favorite target, which is the softest spot that Cleveland has. They're the second worst team in terms of defense versus position. I know that DVP versus tight ends is a very noisy stat depending on which teams you've played against, but it is a stat that we have and something to pay attention to, especially when we have a high volume tight end that's coming to town like Mark Andrews. So Lamar Jackson, I will allow for more than the 7 or 8% in captain that I normally allow with him. And then if I'm going to build groups with him, I'm going to make sure that I have two groups. The first group's going to be at least two of his pass catchers going along with him, with Mark Andrews, Marquise Brown. This is a very thin list with this team, obviously. Going to include Boykin in there, going to include Duvernay as well, and the kicker, Justin Tucker. That's the first group. If you wanted to cut this down, because of the fact that he's not a high volume thrower unless they get massively behind, this is not a play from behind team. They're a play from ahead team. They're favored slightly in this game, so it's going to be a lot of neutral game scripts, at least from what Vegas is projecting here. If you wanted to go with at least one instead of at least two of his pass catchers, I'm okay with that. And again, we're overweighting Jackson and captain versus what we normally do. The second group is going to be a bring back group with with Cleveland players and basically every player that's viable and using at least one of them in the flex. So Nick Chubb, Mayfield, Landry, Hunt, Higgins, all of them, and not going to include the captain in that one, not going to include the defense either. The Ravens rush defense, both teams have a really stout rush defense, like 24th and 25th in the league. They're right next to each other in terms of defense versus position against running backs. But over the last 4 weeks, the Ravens are 12th in the league. So they've kind of regressed a little bit with the injuries that they've had along their defensive line, one of their run stoppers out, and they've allowed more rushing offense against them. Now, the thing that I might want to do here, Nick Chubb, amazing player. Right? Him and Derrick Henry are very similar in terms of fantasy, right? They're not going to catch the ball a lot. My issue with Nick Chubb is that he comes out inside the 5 for Kareem Hunt at least half the time, which is really annoying when you have a player that's not really involved in the passing game. And it's not like Kareem Hunt has been the passing down back. He's not getting a lot of love in the passing game either. He's like a 14, 15 carry a game back, and you've got Nick Chubb as like an 18 to 22 touch a game back when he's been healthy this year. So probably what I'm going to do, it's going to be unlikely that both of these players is going to go completely ham in this game. I'll probably set a specific rule that I'm not going to allow Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt to both be in the flex. I will allow, if Nick Chubb is my captain, for Kareem Hunt to be in the flex, or if Kareem Hunt, I'm using a captain, to be the guy in the flex. But I'll probably make a flex rule that won't allow both of them to be dropped into lineups, because the chances of both of them paying off their salary and giving me a tournament winning opportunity without one of them being a captain is probably pretty unlikely. So that's an additional rule that I'm going to make for this single game showdown, this particular slate versus other slates. And that's really what you have to do, right? I give you guys like 5 very specific general rules, and then you need to be able to look at the slate and determine what else you can build. I give you the groundwork. I'm not going to tell you who to play. That's never what I do. I don't give you lineups. I'm not trying to convince you of who to play. I'm trying to teach you based on what I've done and been successful with in the past, and what the math says you should be successful or lead you to being more successful. And then you got to make your own decision. So that's kind of what we do on this channel. If you're here looking for a lineup, I'm sure somebody's stopping here because there's like 5 or 6 players on the sheet, and there's, okay, he's got these, but that's 4,500 over the salary cap. Sorry, streamer, that doesn't fit. Yeah, I know it doesn't fit, you donkey. You came here to copy paste a lineup. Kitty games down the street. This ain't it. The second groups that I'm going to build, and we've talked about, like, okay, if you have like Nick Chubb at captain, what rules do you make if you have like a running back at captain? Well, running back does not really correlate well with defense. So I'm probably going to build a rule that says I don't want a defense against a running back captain in a lineup. So like I'll allow the same team's captain or the same team's defense with them, like Cleveland plus their defense. If Lamar turns it over a few times, that's great. But if Baltimore's defense is doing really well, then Nick Chubb probably not having a big game. So it's less of a negative against the quarterback in the lineup. Because if a quarterback throws a pick six or fumbles one and gets returned, kind of like Chase Young on Sunday, where he picked up a ball and went the other direction for 47 yards for a touchdown, the offense gets the ball right back in that situation. The quarterback loses like 1 or 2 points, and then they get to throw more because now it's probably likely that they're losing. And now you've got a situation where you get extra attempts and easy yards, more chances at the 300-yard bonus. So defense versus a quarterback in single game showdown, I'm less likely to avoid, but running back at captain against the defense, something that I kind of want to avoid in those situations. If I do have pass catchers, Jarvis Landry's been extremely good recently. Ever since the injury to Odell Beckham Jr., minus this game against Philly, he's been targeted a ton recently. If I'm going to have him in the lineup and he has a really good day, it is probably likely that Baker Mayfield also going to have a good day in that sort of a situation, right? And we look at his last 2 games and they've been very solid. With Landry going off in both of these, he's had 18 and 33 points. So I'm going to tie him to him. This goes for pretty much all the pass catchers, but this is a weird game scenario, right? Same thing goes for Lamar Jackson on the other side. I spoke about how Cleveland is that's the one soft spot in this game is Cleveland against tight ends, and Mark Andrews is really good. I don't know how else to put it. He's just a really good tight end with major touchdown upside and multiple touchdown upside if the Ravens can get it rolling. So if we're going to include Mark Andrews at captain, then I'm going to want to tie Lamar Jackson to him, because if he has a captain type game, it also means that Lamar Jackson also having a really good game. If Mark Andrews has like 100 yards, 8 catches, 2 touchdowns, Lamar Jackson probably going to have his 10 plus carries on the ground, probably going to be approaching, if not exceeding, the 300-yard bonus. And obviously he's had multiple touchdowns throughout that game as well. Marquise Brown, same thing. If he's at captain, I'm probably not going to include any other wide receivers at captain for the Ravens. When it comes to the running backs on the Ravens, guys, I know you want guidance here, but I'm sorry. I ain't got nothing for you. Sometimes these teams just are very unpredictable. I believe that J.K. Dobbins is the most talented player in that backfield right now. He is ripping off yards in chunks. He has the biggest or the most big playability. He's not a 0 in the passing game. So he's the most talented, but like Gus Edwards is still getting a lot of love and a lot of usage and just kind of plodding away, except for that long run that he had and that big game that he had against Dallas. But again, that's against Dallas, and Cleveland's rush defense is not Dallas's rush defense. And now we also have Mark Ingram back. So now it's a 3-headed monster. Dobbins is the best play here in terms of expectation, but he's also clearly the highest priced of the 3. I don't know what to tell you. I wish Dobbins was the only horse in town and was getting 20 carries, but he's not. The other thing that we're going to do is I'm going to make another group. Whether you're hand building or using a lineup builder, I'm not going to allow more than 1 defense or kicker in this game. And looking over at Fantasy Labs, if I go over here to the optimizer tab, it brings up this rules tab here that we have to look at. This is just blank. If you think that you're going to go to an optimizer site, use their vanilla projections, not adjust anything, and just tell it to build you 150 lineups and then you're going to win. That's just not the case. I've got my template saved here. You can see I don't allow kickers or defense at captain. I allow a minimum of 90%. So I'm willing to leave a lot of money on the table for single game showdown, partly for differentiation and partly just to get the lineups that I want. The range of outcomes is up to you. It's salt to taste. If you want something that's closer to the actual projections, whether you're sorting by ceiling or projections, medium projections, you want to cut this down to less of a range and outcomes, 0 or 5%. If you want a little bit more shuffle in your lineups and not really consolidate on 1 or 2 guys all the way up at the top, you can do that. Same thing goes for max exposure. You can tell it to set certain players a little bit lower. If you don't want the quarterbacks to appear in over 60% of your lineups, you set it wherever you want. Again, salt to taste issue. Here's those 5 rules that we talked about. Captain quarterback with at least 2 of the wide receivers, tight ends, and kickers from the same team. Pair a captain quarterback at least 1 of all the players on offense from the opponent's team. Pair a wide receiver with his quarterback. Pair a tight end with exactly 1 quarterback from the same team. And at most, 1 defense or kicker from the same game. This is that groups that I was talking about. For this game, I can say use at most 1 Hunt, and you can see that it's going to give us both captain Hunt and regular Hunt. We're going to go with regular Hunt, and we're going to go with same thing for Nick Chubb. I'm going to allow, if one of them is in the captain spot, I'm fine with the other one being in the flex, but I don't want both of them in the flex at the same time or in the same lineup, because the opportunities for them to really go off are a little bit slimmer there. You can sort by projected points or ceiling or whatever you want. And it's probably going to take you about 5 or 10 or 20 runs of this to get the exact allocations that you want. Utilize those flame emojis if you want more of a player. If you're getting too much of somebody, a captain or in flex, use those snowflake emojis. Change the projections if you think that they're a little bit too conservative or too aggressive on a player. And it doesn't take all that long to get you your 150 lineups to enter in those mini max games. You upload them to the site, boom, you're in. It's a lot more efficient than trying to do it by hand. I wish you guys the best of luck. Look out for another video right here.
He's a legend.